Hello everyone, good morning. This is Palani from Moonshot Tech. Today we will talk about building and deploying production grade GenAI applications, right? What are some of the solution architecture patterns that you can follow to securely deploy and scale your applications, right? Uh, Talking a little bit about the GenAI journey, the past year, 2023, businesses around the world were uh, exploring GenAI applications by building POCs for different use cases, right? And those tech stacks would typically involve your applications that are invoking some of the LLM APIs, like the OpenAI ChatGPT APIs, and exposing a simple chat interface using packages like Streamlit, right? While these were great for prototyping, when it comes to production scale applications, it becomes a very different ball game, right? So let's take an example application that we can build, right? So think about a conversational health assistant, right? These are personalized experiences that you would want to build within your existing health and fitness apps, right? Now, how would you build those personalized experiences that can seamlessly embed into your existing applications, right? So what are some of the design considerations that come into play here? The first thing is to follow the standard uh, web application architecture, which is your backend layer, which incorporates all your data application logic and uses an API to expose all the functionality, right? And the API layer also takes care of all the authentication and authorization aspects. And then you have the UI layer, which could be your web or mobile experiences, which are then interacting with the API layer to expose the functionality. The second thing is linear scalability, right? When you have concurrent user sessions, you want to make sure your application is able to linearly scale as the number of users increases. Cost is a very critical factor, especially when it comes to LLM applications due to the cost incurred with input and output tokens, right? So you want to make sure that you have enough levers to control the cost so that you don't run into huge bills at the end of the month. Some of the other criteria include monitoring your performance, your end-to-end visibility into your application stack, data security, and data privacy considerations, right? Now, let's talk about the different architecture layers when it comes to building your LLM application, GenAI application, right? At the core of your application is your LLM models, right? So these LLM models could either be public models, which are like OpenAI, ChatGPT 3.5 and 4. Um, One thing to be aware of here is when you are using these models, you need to be aware that your data can be used for future training of these models, right? So from a data privacy standpoint, if that is something that you want to avoid, you can go for the hosted models, right? Where these models, it could be open source or commercial models, which are hosted on different cloud infrastructure, right? So some of the infrastructure players include like Hugging Face, AWS Bedrock, GCP, Model Garden, or Azure AI. So what these vendors do is these vendors provide you the infrastructure to host different LLM models, right? So there are multiple models like Llama 2, Mistral, and the great thing about this is it gives you the choice of picking the model of your choice, right? So you could either go for LLM models, or if you have some simpler use cases like, text summarization, you go for, NLP models also like BERT and, these are smaller models which are specialized in a specific task, but they come at a much lower cost and much less of performance needs, right? So this architecture gives you the flexibility to choose the model of your choice based on the performance needs and the cost criteria. Now, once you have these models, you need the application layer, which can kind of orchestrate your end-to-end application, right? And this is where libraries like LangChain and Llama Index come into play. So whenever you want to build any application, the first thing is you need to be able to ingest your data to make sure that you can offer conversational experiences on top of that data, right? Now, this could be non-real-time data like your PDFs or Excel files or text documents or whatnot, right? Now, uh, you can ingest these documents, and these documents are typically converted into embeddings and stored in a vector database, right? So you could choose a vector database of your choice. There are multiple options like Pinecone, MongoDB, pgvector, and a whole bunch of both commercial and open source offerings. By storing your data in the vector data store, you're able to perform semantic search on those data, right? Now, the other thing is, as part of your application, you might also need access to certain real-time data, or you might need access to certain external functionalities that are provided, right? For instance, if you're building a conversational shopping app, you might need access to the real-time inventory data, right? Where you might need to call some APIs to fetch that data and feed it into your models for presenting the experience accordingly, right? So in those cases, you can use external function calling. And from a cost standpoint, caching, it's good to include a caching layer so that you can temporarily store some of your responses to avoid having to hit the LLM layer multiple times. Now, this is very critical, right? Once you have this orchestration layer, you want to make sure your capabilities are exposed via API endpoint, right? And that's where the API gateway comes into play. In the LLM application world, most of Fast API is becoming a very common framework for exposing these LLM functionalities, right? So LangChain also has a component called LangServe, which is again built on LangChain and exposes your application functionalities via API endpoint, right? Now, once you have this architecture, now you could have your applications, be it web applications or mobile applications or your internal tooling, all of them could then interact with the APIs to present these conversational experiences to your customers, right? Now, by going with Fast API and the API gateway, now you have authentication authorization built in the API layer. You have the concurrency aspects taken care of because Fast API by nature is async, based on async ASGI framework. And by having an orchestration layer like LangChain, you are able to choose the LLM model of your choice based on use case. You also get the flexibility of different data stores, and you also get the capability to connect to your own data sources, connect to your own application API endpoints. Now, the other key thing that needs to be considered is the observability aspects and evaluation aspects, right? I think evaluation becomes critical, especially when it comes to evaluating the responses of the LLM models. That can be done as a separate video on its own. But I hope this gives you a high-level overview of the different architectures involved in building a secure and scalable Gen API application. Any questions? Feel free to leave a comment or leave a comment below. Thank you. See you in a different video. Bye.